Good evening, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to finish up the wiring. I have the fitting, so I need to see if the fitting's going to fit the radiator. Got some ground wires to put on and just try to knock out every little thing up under this engine to get this engine complete. Got an air filter to put on it as well. So it's evening, I'm planning to work until it gets dark, so let's get started. Okay, just a little video update. I got my heater hoses on. I connected them to the original heater hose right here because I didn't want to, these go inside of the firewall to the heater coil, and I didn't want to pull those out and have to get up under the dash and replace the heater coil. So I just connected them there for now, and if I have to replace the heater coil, then I'll run new hose all the way down. Also, I put my air filter on, so got the mass air plug back up. My battery goes right here, so I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna run it there or if I'm gonna flip it over to the other side somehow. But I'll see. Compressor kicked on. Let me turn that off. Okay, so just like I said, I'll figure out the air filter thing once I get the battery and the radiator in. The fittings for my radiator, I paid $26 for these fittings. They were actually $13 for the fittings and $13 for shipping, and I just knew for sure that they would fit, and they don't. So I'm going to end up putting the radiator in, and I'll figure out the transmission cooler later. What I might end up doing, because I'm tired of buying fittings for not, so they don't work. So I might just buy an external cooler and just mount that to the front of the radiator. I have the things for that. So with paying $26 for these fittings and I think $10 or $15 for the other fittings, I'm already over the price of what a transmission cooler would cost. So all right, well, let me get back to it. I'm just trying to straighten out some wires and figure out some wires so I can get it tied into the actual Maverick's wiring harness. And once I figure that out, I'll come back to the video. Okay, not sure where I left off at, but I got the air filter mounted or on there. I got the radiator in, got the hose on the top of the radiator. I got to figure out one for the bottom. I got my grounds hooked up. There's one in the corner over here. I'll zoom in right there, and I have one right there. If you know anything about fuel injected cars, they love their grounds, so that's one of the things I'm gonna do, is make sure I got a good grounds as I'm going. So all right, so next I think I'm going to see if I can cut a hole in the firewall and run this cable right here through the firewall. Okay, so I ran into a little snag. My meter is dead. The battery in my meter is dead, and I really need to ohm out these factory wires. Not even ohm them out, just do a continuity check to make sure that my wires coming from the harness right here is the same wires that's over here. So because one of those wires is the ignition wire, and I really need to get that one right. So I want to ohm it out and check it before I actually plug power to it and see it. So if I run out to get a battery right now for my meter, I know I'm not going to want to come back. So I'm going to see if I can find something else that I can do so that I won't be just stopped right here. But I'll come back to the video when I find something else to do. I have everything wired up on my agenda. That was my goal, to get everything wired up, to get the grounds mounted, to get the air filter done, and to get the radiator mounted. So I got all of that done. So just like I said, I just don't want to be stopped right here, so I'm gonna find something else to do. All right, so I couldn't find much to do. I really need to get the battery for my meter so I can ohm out these wires. I could plug up the transmission wires, but I have to jack the car back up, and I really want to get everything on the top end done before I jack the car back up. So just gonna pick back up with this one in a little bit later. I guess tomorrow I'll pick back up on it and I can finish up this wiring part. All right, picking back up on the video. Not sure where I left off. I've been sick the last week or so I haven't been working on the car much. But what I'm gonna do is I just don't really feel like doing a whole bunch of recording, so I'm just gonna do what I have to do and not record every single step. So my plan is to get a lot of stuff done. You just probably just gonna see most of the completed stuff, so I'm not gonna record every single thing. All right, well, let me pick back up on it. Okay, so what I've been working on that probably took a little too much time is I remounted the computer. So I got that looking a lot better. It's sitting down in there flush now, right up against the side. Also, I've been working on an air box to go in this area right here so that this air filter can sit down in this area. And remember, this area was all rusted out because that's where the battery used to sit at. So I just cut that out, made it open. So now you got the air filter sitting down in there, and it also gets air from here. And what I'm gonna have to do is relocate the battery to the trunk, which I figured I was gonna have to do that anyway because I just didn't have any room in here. So, all right, well, just wanted to give you a little update. Let me get back to it. Okay, I realized I talked about the air box, but I never actually showed you. But that's just what I created right there. Just made a little box out of sheet metal and got it in there. Also put my overflow coolant tank on. Got that right there. So overall it's coming together. I'm just trying to figure out my throttle cable now. And transmission cooler is still giving me issues. I tried to go the easy route and still the cooler lines that I bought, cooler hoses that I bought seem to be too small for the cooler that I just bought. So still fighting with that, but I'll get back to it, figure something out. Just made a little cover right there just to cover up the PCM. Okay, haven't been doing much recording, but what I did do was I figured out a shroud for the fan. Look at it from this angle. All right, so I got that shroud in there for the fan. And right now what I'm getting ready to do is cut a hole in the firewall to run this cables through. And I think I'm gonna go in that spot right there. So I'm gonna drill a small hole just to make sure it's coming out where it's supposed to. And I'm gonna get that drilled. Okay, so harness is ran through the firewall. Just gotta get a rubber grommet to go in there. But other than that, they are ran through. And I can get those connected a little bit later. I can go up under this throttle cable also. I don't have the throttle cable hooked up, so I can pull that out and just go over it. So I'll get that done. Gotta give me something to drink. It's hot. All right, another evening working on the Maverick. I'm gonna try to finish off the wiring today, and that way I can go ahead and start getting ready to work on a fuse system. So I'm gonna try to knock out the wiring, and hopefully by the end of this video, at least the wiring will be done. So it's hot in here. My plan is to work until it gets dark. So I'm gonna turn the fan on, so I'm not gonna be doing a lot of recording. But let's get started so I can knock this out. So nothing kills motivation as much as having to redo stuff. This is the charging cable or the cable that's running from the starter to the alternator to the 12-volt battery source. And I went through and retaped this wire up and everything, and now I'm gonna have to, I just took it off because I'm gonna have to cut off all the tape and redo the wire, because half of this stuff is not even needed and it's entirely too long. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down. Actually, what I might do, instead of cutting it down, I think I'm just gonna run a new wire, because just like I said, half of the stuff is not needed. So let me get started on that. Okay, so I rewired the starter solenoid, and I got my battery wire connected to the starter. And now what I'm about to do is run this. I'm gonna run it inside of the car, back to the back towards the trunk, because that's where my battery is going to be located. And the starter wire that I just made is that one. The yellow wire is going to the starter solenoid. I just got to put loom around it so I can loom it. I don't have the loom with me right now, but I can loom it later. All right, so that's the positive wire. Just got to run that to the back, and that part of the wires will be done. Okay, so I left off with the positive cable. I was trying to find a place to run it. This car is not a full frame rail, so I can't run it along the frame rail. So I'm gonna have to go through the inside and run it through the inside back to the trunk. All right, so I'm just trying to find a place that I can actually drill a hole to run it through, either the firewall or the floor going up, like kind of behind the dash. So let me figure that spot out. I'm gonna do a couple of small drill holes to see where I'm coming out at, and I'll get back to the video. Okay, so I drilled a test hole, and this is where it's coming up at, right there. So that's a little close to the transmission tunnel, but I have no choice. So I think what I'm gonna do is just run that wire up there, loop it up, and then come down beside here. So that's the only choice I have. Can probably go up a little bit higher. I'll see if I can go up a little bit higher. If not, then I'll just do that. Okay, so let me show you what I'm working with. All right, so right in here, my exhaust flange runs down. So in order to get this wire to go up in here, I have to miss the exhaust flange. So that's what I'm trying to do, but I did go higher. I went probably about 3 inches higher to that location right there. And I'm gonna see how that works out on the inside of the car. And that should get me kind of away from the exhaust flange. So let's see where this hole is coming out at. Okay, so let's see where the new hole is coming out. That was the old hole. The new hole should be on top of it. There we go. Can't see really, can barely see, but that's the new hole right here. So that's a little bit higher, and I think that's gonna work out for me. All right, so let's get that hole big enough so we can pull the cable through. Okay, so I got some light in here, you can see now. I put a rubber grommet in there where I drilled the hole, as you can see right there. So I'm just pulling the wire through the floor now, and once I get it all pulled through, I'll come back to the video. Okay, so the hard part is done. Got the wire on the inside of the car now, and just got to run it back to the trunk. And I'll go ahead and do that, and then get the ground back there, and then we can get to the ignition wires up under the steering wheel column. All right, sorry about the low light condition, but I'm inside of the car. I just removed the back seat, and instead of removing this, I think I'm just gonna put a little hole in it to run the cable back to the back. I don't want to remove this. This is like some soundproofing for the trunk, to keep the heat and whatever it is out from the trunk, from inside the cabin of the car. So I don't want to take that off. I'll just put like a hole in it somewhere and run the cables up through it. So let me go ahead and get these cables ran back here. So we can start doing stuff inside of the trunk. Okay, so I got the wire ran all the way back to the back, and right now I just got it pulled through the trunk. I got a bunch of stuff in the trunk right now, but I got it right there, just pulled through. Not exactly sure where I'm going to mount the battery. It's either going to be on that flat part or over here somewhere, but I'm just going to leave the cable cord up in the trunk until I get to that point. Okay, so what I'm working on now is these are the wires coming in from that relay box, and I separate them just now because all of these right there, they go to gauges and tag signals and reverse lights and things like that. The two that I have separated over here are the two that's related to the start and the ignition. So that's what I'm gonna actually connect now to the factory Maverick start and ignition wires, and this green and yellow wire that goes to my inertia switch for the fuel pump. So I just got to figure out where I'm going to put the inertial switch at. Usually it's on one of the kick panels, either the driver's side or the passenger side, but these kick panels are kind of shallow and they don't leave room to get anything behind it, so I doubt I'm going to be able to put it on the kick panel, but I'll figure out a way to put it. And the purpose of the actual inertia switch is if you get into an accident, it shuts the fuel pump off, so it has to be mounted with the button up, and it just needs to be on one of the kick panels somewhere. I've also seen where they had them mounted in the trunk, but I don't think I want to do that because it needs to be accessible so that you can get to it if that button actually pops and you have to reset it. So, but I'll come back to that when I figure out where I'm going to put it at. Let me go ahead and get these ignition wires tied into the factory harness. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here. But I got these two wires here. Are the red one goes to the red and blue on the factory ignition, which is I think you can see it right here, and the pink one goes to the red and yellow wire right there. So I didn't tie that in yet. That's all I have to do is tie it in, and that's the two ignition wires that need to be plugged in. So what I have to do next, and just like I said, I probably won't record it because I'm down to the bare minimums when it comes to the wiring now. I just got to mount my ODB2 switch and connect these two wires, and of course in the trunk I just got to run my ground, but that's not hard at all. And once I do that, the wiring part will be taken care of, and then I can get to the fuse system. I'm going to do the inertia wire right there. That's going to be part of the fuse system because the positive side of that has to go to the fuel pump. So alright, so hopefully in the next video I'll be running the fuse system, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up right now. Okay, so I just finished up with the majority of the wiring, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up because this video started to get kind of long. This video actually took me several weeks because I was sick, like I mentioned earlier. That took out a week, and I just kind of lost motivation, so I had to get back to it and finish up the wiring. So thanks for watching. Click on that subscribe button if you haven't, and in the next video I should be getting ready to do the fuse system. So we're gonna get that going, and starting to wrap up a lot of stuff with this Maverick. So if you haven't, like I said before, click on that subscribe button, check out my project from beginning to where I'm at now, and I'll see you in the next video.